Larry McFeely here, live from Ground Zero at the idiocy epidemic that is otherwise known as Arizona. Gonna throw it over to Chad Manley with an action update. Chad?
We're number one! We're number one!
Number one.
Suck on
Number
that,
one.
you liberal snowflake people.
Beta male
I
cucks.
almost went hard on that one.
Yes, for good reason. I have officially sworn off having any interaction with social media as of right now because it's not going to do my mental health any good. The last thing I saw, and it almost caused me to go into flaming rage, was a woman who had a temper tantrum in Target.
The Karen Target chick in Scottsdale?
Yes, in Scottsdale, and I went, I'm done. Our society has officially begun the crumbling that was foretold by everybody who looked at like, well, it's the Roman Empire all over again. We have officially reached it. If we have someone who is so offended by people wanting to, one, it's not protecting themselves, and this is the fun thing, it's like, it's as a courtesy to other people so that you avoid being a contaminant floating out into society that you're doing this, and this person is offended by it on a fundamental level, moralistically. They're like, bunch of damn snowflake ass! Like, kill it with fire.
My girlfriend's mother was complaining about wearing a mask and all that stuff, saying it wasn't effective. My girlfriend shut her down and said, it is effective because it's better than nothing. And then her mom responded with, well, I'm still going to take off my mask when I sneeze. And it's like, no! That's defeating the fucking point of the mask to fucking begin with. Just because you're breathing,
like,
okay,
listen,
but sneezing...
it covers your mustache.
Jesus.
It's a win-win.
Fuck, yeah.
Here's the thing.
Just wear my mask. I got sanitizer right here. Oh, we don't have the camera, but I got sanitizer just in case I need to disinfect my eyes.
Deep breath, Michael. The thing that I have been touting to everybody is said it, and you talked about it as the pulling out principle the other week, but I'm like, it's the same principle as a condom, stealing from Alien versus Predator. I would rather, use it and not need to than have needed to and not used it. Because, it's just better safe than sorry, and for those around me, I would much rather them feel comfortable and able to interact with me without any trepidation as opposed to me just freewheeling it out there in the world going like, well, germs inbound, motherfucker. I hope you watched Outbreak, because it's coming.
I said Jesus because I'm trying to figure out how to do this on my phone. We'll talk about that in a second.
John's over here at the Blair Bitch Project.
Yeah, I'm found footage film waiting to happen right now. Yeah, it's not like it's terribly inconvenient either. I think we've already kind of tread the ground on it, but I agree with you, Shane, and it's so weird how our brains work in similar and different ways, where I'm just a glutton for punishment, so I've hard lean into me you know what, this is all a disaster, and it depresses me to no end. Let's see if I can't throw some lemon juice in there, with some salt. But I'm also glad that you brought up social media in general, because I have some things to inform you guys on. But before we do that, Shane?
Well, I should say, by the social media eternal, behold.
Behold!
It is the Disinformed podcast. I am a very angry Shane.
I am a very angry, depressed John.
And I'm a very angry, defeated Michael.
Somebody had to be furious there. I mean, just hoping for a layup.
Too fast,
Usually when Shane has this many people feeling this way, he's erect. So I'm very concerned that we can't see what's happening below the cam.
I'm like Snape on last week's episode. There's just whips and torments, and somebody's dongle is tattooed.
He's got a dork mark.
Masticate to it.
Indeed.
Masticate.
I'm gonna grab that camel and run with it.
Okay. We'll bookmark social media, but we do have a new listener. And I don't know if you would care to have his name said on the podcast, but let's be real, 5 people listen anyway.
If he hasn't explicitly said it, I don't think we should do it.
We'll just say the first name.
Okay, that's fine.
Jesse.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, that unfortunate soul.
That's what I told him. I said, bless you for listening, but he had nothing but nice things to say about you.
Oh, well.
But he enjoyed the episode overall, and then he left a little note of by the way, the reading was kind of lost on me. And I was like, well, yeah, you came in 26 chapters deep. I could see it being super intimidating and it's definitely one of those labor of loves that isn't going to pay off until the whole thing is completed.
So he
bless you
started
for listening.
He started on the last episode.
Yes, and he knew everyone that we were talking about. He knew the mother-daughter combo, but he also he clarified on the slapper, and he was right on his guess the first time. So I just thought that'd be a nice little thing to bring up for you. And then also just it's nice to have the super outsider, or not that he's a super outsider, but to the podcast, it's nice to have that like literal virgin ears being like, hey, the reading was very weird and it almost lost me up until the Watchmen reference that Shane used, and then I was back in. So saved by the squid.
Yes, indeed.
So thanks for listening, Jesse. Thanks for the feedback. And we have tried very hard over the past like 4 episodes, to kind of give a little bit of a, hey, we're about to switch gears. I would say it's fair that if it's not your bag, you don't have to listen to the tail end. You can always wait for the omnibus, if you will.
Indeed. Context is important where that thing goes, and it is so incoherent and sort of nonsensical to begin with that, yeah, it's going to lose a couple folks around the bend.
Yeah, it's a B-side of the project that we're tacking on, but I still think it's fun. I like it.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
So what would you guys rather have from... Oh, by the way, before we get too far, we are testing out if I can use a different recording setup because my laptop prior to this has been on its last leg, and I think it's officially dead. So,
and we document that as of this next week's After Dark. Well, actually, no, last week's After Dark. You got to see you freeze at the end of it, and then make that brilliant comeback, stage the finger point of doom, as it were.
My goodness, that was beautiful.
I loved it.
So anyway, I'm not expecting it to sound weird. Michael's reassured me and quelled my anxiety a little bit, but if it does sound different, that's why.
Is someone blaming the technology on this podcast?
Just how Michael taught me.
Hey.
Learn from the best.
Hey.
Michael, you were saying.
I can't. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think that his audio is bad, just listen to the first episode and you'll be fine. There's your context.
I don't think that's really the best comparison to make, where it's like, well, if you think that I'm a bad lay now, remember that first time that we had sex together where it was abysmal? Right. Well, at least I'm not that.
Improvement. That's all that matters.
That out of the way. This is a unique episode because if you've listened to more than one episode or 2 episodes, you'll realize that I don't present ever. And last week I made a promise, and I have lived up to the promise that I made. So I do have a topic for you gentlemen. And also, you guys have had a trying week, and I think I can take some of the load off of your balls.
And my face.
It's not the first time you've taken my load, John, but, well, for context then, for those who are unfamiliar to the podcast platform, as Dear Jesse was last week, I'm glad we've gotten back to explaining what we do here. We try, on a week-by-week basis, to present a random, odd, or esoteric topic, and in the course of presenting it and explaining some of the trappings that surround its history, and rich history, depending upon the circumstances, we will occasionally lie from time to time to try to keep it interesting, because that was the premise of the whole podcast. If you don't know this, go back, listen to episode 1. It is still our most popular episode, I imagine, because everybody's trying to, get in, and it's the worst audio quality of all of them, so naturally it's the worst way to start. But that's
literally
what we
recorded
do.
in an office, my office, with sharing one mic inside of a closet.
It's like a Beatles record that you never knew you wanted. So it is then incumbent upon the co-hosts to pick out the lies, and that is the point of the podcast. There are, however, no points for getting a right answer, and no one wins ever.
It's just bragging rights, and then we don't even brag, and all of us are sore winners and sore losers. Yeah.
So, John, however, when was the last time you did an episode that you can recall?
Mount Everest traffic jam?
Okay. I think you might have done the Old West or the Outlaw Justice.
Frontier
after
Justice?
that.
I don't remember which one came first.
I think that one was after.
Yeah, I think Outlaw Justice was after. But,
Okay.
we're getting there.
It's almost like I let you guys fall on the sword of like getting the concept figured out and getting everything smoothed out before I came back in with my lackluster researching skills.
Well, we've always
no.
held that you are the everyman or every person of this podcast. You get to
Mhm.
do the listener's journey by and large. So, throwing you at the deep end of the pool's not fair to you because you're not normally inclined to do research.
Yep.
Well, bless you for saying so.
Mm.
But before we get to the topic, we
okay.
have two Twitter things to tackle.
Ooh,
So I
John's
want you-
trolling brigade back in action.
I was gonna say, so either I'll let Shane pick it. Not to exclude you, Michael, but
I'm always
Shane,
excluded.
would you rather hear the next chapter in my trolling, or would you like to hear about a hilarious account that's been bringing me joy for 2 days straight?
I mean, I'm a very big fan of your trolling, so I want to get that as my upfront, unless you're telling me it's got a better payoff. Because we want to finish with a happy ending, as always.
No, so both have really good endings.
Okay.
But, okay, so I'm going to set up the troll first, and then I'm going to go to my Twitter. So even though people aren't watching this, my Zoom session is going to freeze, so I'm going to make sure not to make a dumb face when I switch. But I achieved a new level 2 days ago, and when I saw what happened, I laughed out loud like a little girl, or squeed. I was like, hee hee hee. Someone blocked me on Twitter,
Oh.
and all it took was 2 responses.
Wow.
So I'm going to switch over to Twitter and find this shit.
Okay, now did the person indicate, or did you indicate to that person that they, were wiping before they pooped?
No, I didn't get the opportunity to
All
tell
right,
them.
well, that's an important callback for us to seed throughout the remainder. And speaking of seeding, by the way, in case you were unaware, for those uninitiated, birds are a fucking lie.
They aren't real.
No.
Have you ever seen them? Really seen them?
Have you held one up close? Have you touched it to your lips and kissed it like your mother right before she passed?
Let's see. Come on.
I didn't think that required that much thought, but
But I am going to screen cap
I already did.
Good Boy, because that's the greatest
I already
face that we've
did.
had in a good long while for the Watkins.
Oh no!
Oh, so many frozen faces. The million
it's a-
frozen faces
Well, yeah,
of John
we
Watkins.
knew it was going to freeze. Yeah, just fill the time here.
Well, since you're looking for that, okay, I was gonna say I have got a world of fuck, marry, kills over here. So
Oh my goodness!
No.
I'm
Okay,
always down
so-
for that.
It was a tweet from Los Angeles Times, and it was an article about Tom Hanks being baffled by people who don't take COVID-19 seriously.
all right.
Yeah.
Important to note that he actually did contract it and dealt with it, so he would be one to know.
Right, and he's one of the first celebrities to outright be like, yes, it's real. I have it. Me and my wife are quarantined in I think Australia.
Yeah.
The title for the LA Times article, or the tweet, is when discussing everyone who isn't taking COVID-19 seriously, actor Tom Hanks got blunt. To which Twitter handle Truthseeker with but his actual handle is Romantic Fool 65. I don't give a shit about naming him. Fuck him.
So close to 69. Why? Why did you do 65?
He says, "Stop being such a damn sheep." And I responded, "Damn, man, I never thought about it that way. You have changed my perception with your insightful words. Bless." And he responded, oh, fuck, tell me it's still here.
Uh-oh.
Essentially, he took me seriously.
All right, I was gonna say if he's blocked you, yeah, you might have difficulty getting his commentary.
Essentially, he thought I was serious, and he was like, "Hey, glad that I opened up your eyes. Here's some memes that you can spread around to show the people that think this is real, that it's just a fake." And it was a bunch of those like just completely like baseless. Like there's one with like says this is slavery, and it's just a picture of children, like babies, like infants wearing masks. And I was like, come on, dude. To which I responded, and this is what got him to block me, and this just goes to show how sensitive some people are. He goes, I go, "Oh, I was fucking with you. That's the silliest shit that I've ever seen. Have fun in your doomsday bunker."
You nearly got the spit take on the doomsday bunker.
That was good. That was good.
So, getting blocked, and then, like, because I was waiting, I was eager. I was like, he is gonna respond. Like, I can't, like, I'm so in the mood. Like, I'm so just on the fringes of giving a shit about anything right now that, like, I would welcome this fight, and that's what started the trolling, I think, to begin with.
Yeah.
But it felt like a major victory.
Well, I mean, it was a good provoke. You were inciting him to respond. You weren't just trying to cut the conversation. You were like, come on, come at me.
Also, obviously I was being sarcastic. But I think I'm going to start ending things by saying bless instead of like bless you or anything.
Yeah.
I really, it was pepper on the...
Yeah.
The cat indicated that he was a fool in his own Twitter handle, so I'm fairly certain you may have taken that just at face value that he's an idiot. I mean, it's fairly easy to... And listen, we're not trying to be reductive here. I don't think any of us are attempting to truly be incendiary because we're not here to drive the wedge deeper. We're not a political podcast, and we've tried to kind of recover from this over the last little while here. It's just this divide keeps growing to canyon-esque levels because everyone believes that there's only one right way to approach this, and there's not.
Right. And now we will end Twitter on a happy note.
Ooh.
So I'm going to freeze my face in another good way.
It's already... It looks the same as the other two.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure Becky's very familiar with that face.
Oh, my vinegar stroke face. It is a parody account called Jurassic Park Updates.
Ooh.
And I highly recommend that you throw them a follow. They post, I think it's like 4 or 5 comedy writers, and every tweet is basically golden. So I'm just going to read you ones that I've retweeted over the past day.
I love where this is going.
Jurassic Park Updates. Many guests are asking if dinosaurs are, quote, different from dragons, end quote. We hear you, and we are looking into it. And then this string of 2 tweets is what got me to almost spit out my beer last night. We have developed a velociraptor that smokes cigarettes. Please do not try to befriend the velociraptors. Emotionally, they take much more than they give. And I'll end you on this oof topical one, and then we'll get to the show. Number of deaths reported at Jurassic Park may be inaccurate due to increasingly dead reporters. So
I like
brings me great joy.
For good reason. I think we've all derived a significant amount of enjoyment from the good old Parks of Jurassic over the years. And, what does Malcolm's girlfriend tell him late at night when they're entangled with one another?
I don't know.
Must go faster. Must go faster.
Must go faster. Must go faster.
I get that reference.
All right.
Oh!
Yeah.
Michael's seen a
Now-
movie. Stop
Yeah.
the presses, kids.
I mean, I remember his abs, and that's essentially all I remember. But his abs were still showing that scene. So.
Where were you last year when I did a Jeff Goldblum panel at, Fan Fusion?
Oh my
what's
God,
going
I
on,
forgot that
Mike?
you
Probably
did that.
drunk. I don't know.
That I will tell you, if you want to have like a flashback sort of director's commentary on last year's Fan Fusion, that was the most painful of all of the panels that I did because my cohort Michael, who I love dearly, and I'm sure he may encounter this at some point. So he did a phenomenal job on the Stephen King panel, and I really appreciated a lot of his insight on the Doctor Who panel as well. So he was great. He crapped out on me on the Goldblum panel. Like, he just brought no sauce and really was not prepared at all. He didn't do a lot of research. And I was expecting him to kind of carry the burden because I knew I over-researched the other two. And then our third, Christina, was also really wonderful, a lot of fun, but she didn't have any commentary really other than how much she, like Michael, loves his abs. So I wound up having to improvise about a 25-minute discussion on Earth Girls Are Easy to a crowd of people who gave no fucks about how funny I thought I was. And I was begging for laughs the entire time. And I'm like, this panel is going to be rated horrifically. I'm going to get driven into the ground. And it still got over a 4-star rating out of a 5-star system. So I'm very happy about that.
There's a rating system?
Yes, they just brought in a rating system this last year to try to determine who they would bring back.
Oh, okay.
And I will say
sense.
the Stephen King panel got a perfect 5-star rating from and that one had the most individuals that contributed. I think I got a 4.6 on the Doctor Who panel, And then, yeah, the Goldblum was a 4.2 overall.
Man.
But yeah, the entire time I was sweating bullets. I could not, it felt like there was a child that started having like a screaming fit at the front of the room. And we were in a giant room. It was probably a 400 to 500 seat room. We were in one of the big ones. And we only probably had 50 people in it. And so it looked like we were at the last dregs of people being taken into the extermination room.
Oh, no.
It was a rough time, but we survived. And we'll be moving on at some point in the future. We'll be back in a fan panel somewhere.
Yeah.
It will be fun.
I love it.
Super on topic.
Mm.
I mean, through hardships this week, I think it's made us oil up this machine a little bit. Are you ready for the topic today?
Oh, please give it.
I have researched. Okay, so I buckled up, I pulled my pants up high and tight, and I opened 3 tabs
Ooh.
on a presentation about Wesley Snipes and his almost involvement in Black Panther.
Now, he's not referring to, the Black Panthers as an organization. He's talking about the comic book character.
Wait.
All
Bullshit.
Right. How many lies do we have,
oh my
John?
God.
Oh, yeah.
So we have one lie, and it's not a cheap one.
Okay.
It's not a numbers-based one. It's not that the lie is that there's no lie, which I had incepted and then, got hit over the head with. But yeah, so I guess what I wanted to ask first is, have we all seen Black Panther?
Yeah.
I was like, here's looking at you.
I was
Clark
nervous. Well,
No,
we're
I've
still
seen
going to
it.
give a little bit of an overview. So the one that was actually released, Black Panther premiered on January 29th of 2018 and was released theatrically in the United States on February 16th as part of Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film received critical acclaim from critics praising its direction, screenplay, acting, costume design, production values, and soundtrack, though the CG effects received some criticism. Which, after just watching the movie, I don't really have the entire time. Becky's sitting next to me. She goes, "Oh my God, this, not graphics, but the CG is so good. It looks so good. Oh my God."
Yeah, I didn't know there was any issues with the CG. I thought that's. Can I call bullshit on that, actually?
It is not bullshit.
Okay, because I was like, wait a minute, I don't recall any controversy on that.
Many critics considered it to be one of the best films set in the MCU and noted its cultural significance, with organizations including the National Board of Review and American Film Institute naming it one of the top 10 films of 2018. It grossed over $1.3 billion worldwide and broke numerous box office records, including the highest grossing film by a Black director. It became the 9th highest grossing film of all time, 3rd highest grossing film in the US and Canada, and the 2nd highest grossing film of 2018.
That was also the highest grossing Marvel film to date at that point, right? That past Avengers? Yeah.
Yeah. It also received numerous awards and nominations, with 7 nominations at the 91st Academy Awards, including Best Picture, with wins for Best Costume Design, Best Original Score, and Best Production Design. It was the first Black Panther is the first superhero film to receive a Best Picture nomination and the first MCU film to win an Academy Award. It also received 3 nominations at the Golden Globes, 2 wins at the 25th Screen Actors Guild Awards, and 3 wins at the 24th Critics' Choice Awards from 12 nominations, among others.
And I mean, it's important to clarify there, too. I mean, comic books as a genre were somewhat laughable for a very long while, and the only claim to any sort of credibility that we had heretofore was, I think, Heath Ledger's nomination and win for Best Supporting Actor for Dark Knight. They had not seen any daylight for Academy Awards, in the same way that Lord of the Rings kind of managed to break through the veil for fantasy films. Comic books did not get any love whatsoever. They are kind of seen as lower life forms in a cinematic sense. So really important ground being broken here when you say that, Black Panther's one of the ones that got an Academy Award. That's really unheralded.
Right. And we talked about it, or we bumblefucked over it at some point in the past episodes. And it was the first thing that went through my head after watching Black Panther. I was like, what started all the Marvel movies? Like, what was the first Marvel movie that actually, like what was, like, the genesis of it, like, the breaking ground of, like, oh, we need to make more of these movies, and like these movies are going to be a thing.
Hmm.
And that there is some argument, but most people agree with you, Shane, and I agree with you as well. Blade.
Yeah.
So Blade was one of the first Marvel movies. So, and again, my links and my sources are pretty just bare bones.
Okay. And
Nothing wrong with that.
semi-spurious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
The question I have to ask, because I didn't know this when it originally came out, and I wouldn't know. I would want to see if other people do. I don't know how many people know that Blade is actually Marvel.
Ah,
it
that's
gets
interesting.
overlooked.
Yeah, it's Blade was released, I think it was Tomb of Dracula number 16, if I'm remembering my comic book history correctly. But that was the first appearance of Blade as a character, so Tomb of Dracula was a Marvel title. I was going to get into this when we were doing our, history of the comic books code as well, because horror comics back in the day were a really vital sort of monetary line for comic book publishers. That's where Tales from the Crypt originated. There's a lot of similar things.
Oh.
So Ed Gein took a lot of his inspiration from reading horror comics, if you get back into the gloomer kind of movement here. So these things existed, and Dracula was a fairly prominent character, and for Marvel to get it and capitalize on it's kind of a big deal. And so then Blade got introduced that way, but Blade was one of the first. Did you actually know there was a Captain America movie prior to any of the other MCU stuff starting up back in the day?
Wasn't it in the?
Was in
the
90s.
80s? Oh, okay.
It's early, so
there's kind of a crossover coming up.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And then there was also the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie. So there were, sort of flirtations with these things. Once they figured out that Batman and Superman made money for Warner Brothers, people wanted to try to get on the game. X-Men was really the first vital run, but prior to X-Men, Blade was the first film that really kind of broke through.
You're basically just smashing this next paragraph that I had.
All right. Well, fantastic.
Oof.
Obviously, you've hit home with something I'm interested in, so I can share this with you.
No, that's why I thought it would be a lot of fun and kind of, taking the load off of you guys again. Like, if you want to look at it for the rest of the episode, Shane is going to have the most knowledge on the topic just because of, osmosis and proximity, what have you.
Obsession.
I'm in the middle. Yeah, I'm in the middle that I enjoy, but I haven't dove down the rabbit hole as much as I should or want to. And Michael, you hardly understand why you're here.
What's a comic book?
There you are.
I don't understand that.
Michael is not a four-color demon, but he will be the every person for this episode. He can walk in.
Is it supposed to be a book that's funny, like a comedian?
Yeah, it's one of the funny tales.
Oh, I wish you were the comedian right now, Michael, because I would push you out of a window and just watch you fall to the street, you silly sack of shit.
So, Michael, Blade, based on the vampire hunter character created in July 1973 by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. Colan? Yeah, Colan. Colan. In Gene, would go to be the first hit film based on a Marvel property, giving the company a much-needed win as it licked its wound from bankruptcy woes. Blade earned $131 million worldwide for New Line Cinema and spawned 2 sequels, with its success helping to pave the way for Marvel hits like Fox's X-Men and Sony's Spider-Man. So X-Men came out in 2000, Spider-Man came out in 2002, and Blade was right around 2000.
It was 98, I believe, or if I'm remembering correctly.
So the reason that Blade is important is because the reason that it went into production, or how Wesley Snipes got involved with Blade, is because he failed to get a Black Panther film into production in 96.
Okay.
There ends 2 of my tabs, which were just Wikipedias for Blade and Black Panther.
Well done.
Fair enough. Cite your sources.
I'm also very excited because, yes,
Wikipedia.
I did. 98 is when Blade was released, so I
well done.
Feel vindicated somewhat.
Now, the rest of this, I kind of went over a couple different websites, but it ended up just pulling from one article because they kind of had the best synopsis of the whole story. And I just kind of pieced together. It was a journalist who wrote it up, so kept it easy on me, but I kind of cherry picked it so that we could keep it rolling along and not be too long.
Okay.
But it is from Hollywood Reporter, and I'll just dive in.
Give it.
In the mid-90s, while writing a wave of box office hits that propelled him to superstardom, Wesley Snipes undertook a bold initiative. make a film about the Marvel Comics character Black Panther. Snipes' uphill battle was plagued with script rewrites, director uncertainty, storytelling clashes, and inadequate CG capabilities needed to truly bring the marvelous fictional African nation of Wakanda to life. Snipes was quoted saying, "I think Black Panther spoke to me because he was noble, and he was the antithesis of the stereotypes presented and portrayed about Africans, African history, and the great kings of Africa. So it had cultural significance, social significance. It was something that the Black community and the white community hadn't seen before at the time."
Yeah.
So he was hooked in an instant when he and his then manager, Doug Robertson, were approached by Marvel for the project, feeling that Africa, save for the unique animal population, was too commonly shown in film as a depressing, desolate land. Snipes yearned to show its beauty and lush history. So
Nice.
yeah, so it's all like super positive stuff.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I like that positivity note. Like it's a good reason. I mean, like from Black Panther, it was definitely different than all the other Marvel movies before it, and I think that was one of the main reasons why it got such a like critical acclaim. One of the many reasons, because it was a beautifully written, beautifully directed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the other thing to dovetail off this as well, this is really important to the time frame, is that you're talking about we are right on the tail end of apartheid in South Africa as well.
Oh, good point.
So
yeah.
this would be something that would really help to kind of empower and give. It's one of the reasons they point to it being sort of looked at this desolate sort of barren wasteland.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
it would help to kind of change along with Paul Simon's Graceland album was doing a lot to try to sort of draw attention to the arts and culture in Africa at the time. So this would have been a really beautiful stroke to go along with that. And also take into account here that the other comic book films being made around this time are like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, which are ghastly, garish, like hokey films. So this would have probably had a dramatically different tone to it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's nice to have the super fan in the room here, because it says, so at the time, Marvel was hardly the Disney-backed powerhouse that it is today.
Yes.
So after years of hemorrhaging money, the company declared bankruptcy in '96. While competitor DC Comics had enjoyed big screen successes with hits such as Tim Burton's Batman movies, the Superman franchise, the box office hits eluded Marvel still at that time. So Snipes, on the other hand, was red hot, having just started a string of hits including New Jack City, White Man Can't Jump, Passenger 57, Rising Sun, and Demolition Man. More than just his next picture, Snipes says he saw the Marvel superhero project as a cultural movement. However, right off the bat, there was an issue. The initial struggle, as Snipes explains, was explaining to the uninitiated that he was trying to make a movie about the comic book superhero Black Panther, not the 1960s civil rights revolutionaries.
No. That would be a very
which is
difficult...
what you were mentioning.
Yeah, it's an uphill struggle when you've got the only correlation is a group of, at the time, what they refer to as quote-unquote militant blacks, which is a real dangerous sort of connotation to it, particularly from both sides.
Yeah.
So he's quoted as saying, "They think you want to come out with a black beret and clothing, and then there's a movie," he says, sounding exhausted.
Exhausted is the best add to that.
Yeah, because of course he's going to sound exhausted by that, because it's what we're talking about right now. It's like, please don't jump to fucking conclusions here.
Yeah.
So he goes on to say that they went through 3 different scripts and a couple of different director options, very interesting director options at the time. Mario Van Peebles,
Van Peebles
was on the short list, as was John Singleton, who made a big splash in the industry at the age of 23 with his 91 film Boys in the Hood. They were trying to find the young, up-and-coming black directors, Snipes says. Snipes would never chat with Van Peebles about the project, but he did have an unforgettable meeting with Singleton. So this is all a quote from him. He goes, "I laid on him my vision of the film being closer to what you see now. The whole world of Africa being a hidden, highly technically advanced society, cloaked by a force field, vibranium." John was like, nah. See, he's got the spirit of the Black Panther, but he's trying to get his son to join the civil rights activist organization. And he and his son have a problem, and they have some strife because he's trying to be politically correct, and his son wants to be a knucklehead. Laughing, Snipes continued, "I am loosely paraphrasing our conversation, but ultimately John wanted to take the character and put him in the civil rights movement." I'm like, dude, where's the toys? They're highly technically advanced, and it would be fantastic to see Africa in this light, opposed to how Africa is typically portrayed. I wanted to see the glory in the beautiful Africa, the jewel Africa. So he goes, thanks God, or thank God, I love John, but I'm so glad we didn't go down that road because that would have been the wrong thing to do with such a rich project.
And I mean, to contextualize at the time, it kind of falls back in again. Comic books are funny books. It's intended to be silly stuff for kids. So to try to have anything that has, political connotation to it, you have to dress it up and make it an adult movie that doesn't play into the comics sort of pastiche, which is just, it's one of the things that they really fought against for a long time before Marvel started lending credence to the fact that you can present these as serious stories with the actual, emotional underpinnings that make sense in films, even though people like Martin Scorsese will say they're not cinema.
That was funny. I forgot that happened.
Even so, with Marvel movies, they had to warm up to that sort of mostly serious tone. A lot of the original movies that they'd come out, like the first Iron Man and stuff like that, they didn't tackle as serious things like Sokovia Accords and all those other more important things that they tackle later on, because they had to warm people up to the fact that it's not Dark Knight, it's not super depressing dark, but it's also not campy like Adam West and all those other things. It was like a happy middle where it was a little bit more realistic, but also still they can throw jokes, they can have quips, they can have all that, but it's still, doing interesting things.
I think if you want a real interesting study in contrast, watch The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises and then watch Iron Man back to back, and even those feel like they come from dramatically different worlds. And
Agreed.
I think Iron Man takes itself, it functions like a movie. It gives you the same sort of introduction. I mean, and even if you want to go further down the well, look at the Amazing Spider-Man franchise or just the original Spider-Man.
Thank you.
Holy hell.
So this is topical for me to be presenting this now because I just, as of Sunday, finished my chronological watch of the MCU.
Nice.
And I'm still a goon for watching more comic book movies because I feel like our current climate is what comics and superhero movies were made for.
It's what you're trying to escape from. Yeah.
It's escapism, and it's the good guys usually win. There's satisfying arcs, but I went and I'm watching the original Spider-Man trilogy right now, and I just finished the O2 Spider-Man, and going from polished MCU to what I remember going and seeing it in theaters and thinking it was amazing. I was like, oh my god, there is so campy. I also forgot that it's Sam Raimi joint, so you get Bruce Campbell's cameo and all that fun stuff. But
ooh, I have to tell you, I feel the same way looking back on the things, because I just watched the '89 Batman again fairly recently with Melissa and had that same thing where I was like, I can see why I liked it as a kid, and the nostalgia button gets pinged really hard when I watch it. But even then, I'm sitting here watching going oh my god, Nicholson is just eating the scenery, and this dialogue is ghastly.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, and he literally cannot turn his head. So when he's staring at the woman running up the stairwell, he literally has to cock back. It's still
he does
top 10 favorite things.
Like the Muppet turn, as I tend to phrase it, where it's just the whole body. And
so
that never changed.
Fucking funny.
Until they got to The Dark Knight. He still couldn't, even Bale's first cowl for Batman Begins, he couldn't turn his head at all. It's just such a shocking notion to me that no one would have thought, you can make a separate headpiece and the neck piece be different. No, it has to be the same. It looks that way in the comics.
Okay, one more trivia question, or not question, but one more little trivia bit. Batman Returns, I think it is still hilarious to this day how many costumes they went through for Catwoman. They literally had to cut her out of the costume anytime she needed out of the outfit.
Yeah, that thing did not lend to zippers, even though it had the stitching all over the place. I mean, she was basically just sewed into the bloody thing.
Yeah, sexually awoken, but that was a very pivotal moment in my peener's career. But
oh yes,
why did you say peener? Everything was fine, and then it just got awkward when you said peener.
Oh, are you gonna be one of those prudes that doesn't refer to yourself coming as being milked?
No, the milk thing is fine.
I mean, I referred to it last week as milking, as I recall in my summations for, My Immortal.
But, just the word peener just I don't know, it just didn't vibe. It's like moist with some people. It just, gave me a weird form of, ajta. I was like, ugh.
So as
everything
of right
else
now,
is fine.
Michael's new name is Peener.
No. No,
Oh my god, he's Peener Greer.
No, oh, no.
Hey, it's
I'm
better
still.
than Robert.
No, I'd rather have Robert. I feel
Peener.
like Pinot Greer is like.
A bad wine
Uh,
served with fish.
yeah!
It's
I
my
hear that
Pinot
now.
Greer.
Served with like week old fish.
Ugh.
There you go.
It's Walmart red wine. Yeah.
Oh no, you're giving it too much of a compliment. It's like 99-cent store wine.
Okay.
Right in shooters.
Yes, you are correct. Anyway, sorry. I'm not usually the guy that has to corral it back to a topic. I'm usually the one that's like trying to push off the rails. So I don't know how to I don't have the diplomacy that you two people have.
Dad has to watch the kids now as opposed to mom.
Well, anyway, DeFalco, who sat through dozens of pitches for Marvel properties during those years, he's quoted saying, "Most of them I think I was fighting to stay awake." Recalls taking a trip with Marvel brass to Los Angeles for a flurry of meetings, during which they had a dinner with Columbia execs and screenwriter Terry Hayes. The screenwriter, quote, gave this incredible pitch from beginning to end for Black Panther, which began with a battle in Wakanda, a baby T'Challa being put on a river in a basket to be saved. Years later, he's a grown man living somewhere else, going about his life. Suddenly, he's attacked in an elevator in an elaborately choreographed fight scene with a cameo from Captain America, and the story goes from there.
So it's coming to America as told through Wakandan eyes.
Basically.
Okay, is that bullshit?
Which one? The pitch?
Yes, is the pitch bullshit?
No, the pitch is not bullshit.
Okay. Is so that story was actually presented that way?
Yes, that was what the screenwriter at dinner presented.
That's interesting.
Huh.
And he says, I just remember as the writer was describing the scene, I could see it in my mind. I thought, if this is our Black Panther movie, sign me up. He really had a terrific handle on the character, on the action, on the stakes, and everything else. After some time and a great deal of Snipes' effort, the project stalled.
Oh boy.
So, and we're kind of like in the home stretch here, but he says, ultimately we couldn't find the right combination of script and director, and also at the time we were so far ahead of the game in thinking, the technology wasn't there to do what they had already created in the comic book. So it was a natural progression and a readjustment, he said, that Black Panther and Blade had no ability. They were both fighters. So I thought, hey, we can't do the King of Wakanda and the Vibranium and the Hidden Kingdom in Africa. Let's do a Black Vampire.
Fair.
So Black
That's
Panther,
fair.
Meanwhile, soon found greater prominence in the comics after the Snipes project stalled. Writer Christopher Priest and artist Mark Teixeira, I think that's correct.
Teixeira, I think, is how it's... Yeah.
That would be great, yeah. Reinvigorated the character with the launch of a 98 Marvel's Knights line, which offered a more modern take on T'Challa. Jimmy Palmiotti, who along with Joe Quesada edited the line, both confirmed to The Hollywood Reporter that despite internet rumors to the contrary, they were never tapped to work on a Black Panther movie in the 90s. But Palmiotti is thrilled to see Bossman's interpretation of the character 20 years after he first worked with T'Challa. So he says, diversity with characters has always been what comic books were about, and it's just taking the rest of the world time to catch up on a lot of the things that has been done for years in the medium. I don't know why I had that in there. I think I just thought it sounded nice.
Well, diversity is something that they're stressing a lot more in the filmic universe these days.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with the statement. I don't know why I didn't put that later or earlier, because then
Not
Snipes says that
apropos.
over the years, people have told him how much they appreciated Blade, which helped put Marvel back on track. So remember, during that time, Marvel was going through a liquidation, and there were concerns that the whole company might fold, he says. And it's my understanding that film was a catalyst to his resurgence in the empire we see now. As for what Marvel Studios has become, Snipes says some of the films he really enjoys and others not as much. It's a mixed bag. Because I think the real shift is when they started bringing real character actors into the projects, people who are capable of creating three-dimensional characters and story and nuance, like Robert Downey. I think that what also made Blade a success, I think it's because I was theatrical, classically trained stage performer background, and I brought all those skills to the character of Blade.
There's also like a physicality to that character that you wouldn't have had otherwise, because his martial arts background really lent a lot of credibility to the fight sequences, in the same way that, Winter Soldier for Captain America, when you've got George St. Pierre there having a fight with Chris Evans at the beginning, those look like a couple of guys fighting as opposed to people in rubber who are throwing the worst punches in human history. these things look like it's down and dirty. They're doing anything that they can to subdue the other person, and it's not, this odd slap fighting. And Snipes running around with a sword is a scary thing to behold.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That opening sequence in the bloodbath where he's just running through, gunning folks down and slicing them up.
I will never forget the first time I saw that.
Yeah, it officially just kind of it awakened my brain to the idea that you could stage an action sequence like that. One, just visually, it was brilliant. It's something that you had never seen before because you got a room where they are literally raining blood on everyone, and then he's just running through and cutting swaths through bodies as they're running. Just really well done.
Hell yeah. So as for Bosman's Black Panther, Snipes could not be more thrilled, he says. And this is the end quote that I have for my presentation. Even though I'm not a part of this particular project, I support it 1000%. I'm absolutely convinced that it will be a catalyst for change and open other doors and other opportunities, he says. And we need that kind of diversity and different flavor now. He's a young, talented actor, and I think he's going to make it his own. I hope they give him a great opportunity to really come into the fullness of the character, which obviously this article came out before the massive success, which is why I wanted to take time at the beginning to talk about how successful it was, because he was very gracious of being like, it didn't work for me, but I really, really hope it works for this dude. And now he's in talks. Like the article goes on to say some other fun things, like if they wanted to tap him on the shoulder to come back into the MCU, that he would be so ready.
I mean, guy still looks fantastic to this day.
But I mean, they did give the Blade role to somebody else in the upcoming role. But I mean,
I think he's done it for 3 films, and it's largely just because I think they want to kind of, take a different approach. And the gentleman that they did is, I mispronounce his name whenever I say it, but he was from True Detective season 3. He was the lead for that. I think that's who they have tapped to play Blade next.
Oh, I can see his face I just can't think of the name.
I will look it up because we have the internet. That is a thing.
Oh, my Lanta.
Ooh, boy, howdy.
While you're doing that, I will start scrolling to where I need to be for
it's
our...
Mahershala. It's Mahershala Ali is the gentleman's name. Or it's pronounced differently, but just from how it looks. But he's a fantastic actor. I'm excited to see what he brings to the role, because that will have a different sort of gravitas, but he's intimidating. He looks fantastic, so it's going to be fun. I will commend you, sir, because, if there's a lie in there other than Captain America cameos, the last thing I will take a stab at is the lie.
That was the only thing I was thinking of.
Was that the lie? Okay.
Captain America cameo.
It's the only thing that I could think of.
I thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to give up the ghost because you were so close to asking if his screenwriter vision was correct.
Okay.
You mentioning Captain America early on, before we even got there, I was like, oh my god, this might work perfect.
All right. I was going to say that I think the fact that it was, Captain America in the elevator and the action sequence is what is, it's like it's too on the nose to what actually happened, that I was like, it's close to something, but.
Yeah, because that scene popped into my head from Civil War? No.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And they also do a reprisal of it in Endgame when they do the time travel-y bit, which I thought was a nice nod.
It's brilliant, particularly with that is America's ass. So, Michael, get on the ball, sir. There's no excuse at this point.
So that was the whole kip and caboodle.
Well done.
That was my first presented topic in probably this whole year.
Well, I was impressed.
Yes, I do believe it is, and that was great.
Thank you. I will send my sources over to you, Michael, because usually you guys just have the master thing anyway, so you don't even worry about it, but I'll send it with the music.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, and I will send my regards to San Francisco.
Is that a train reference?
No, that's just I'm an old man. Please disregard. Oh. So,
it's a lot like yours.
Are we, do we want to inject a little fun here before we get into the depths of depravity that is My Immortal?
Yeah, let's do it.
We haven't had a moment for this for a while, and I think that I have so many of these stockpiled. We need to start breaking some of them out. We have, let's do a fuck, marry, kill here, gentlemen.
Okay.
Yes.
Since John technically chose last time, so I've claimed this now each time. Michael, I'm going to make you choose this time. So we have
The Jedi. I'm kidding. Go for it. Sorry.
You have
I know I'm dumb.
no. It's I just we can't be one note here. I have a very broad palette that I've painted. So
who's next on the Jedi fuck Mary kill today?
so previously we had Dictator Edition and the Jedi Edition. So I'm going to go with new things. So we have Killer Edition, Monster Edition, Presidential Edition, Wizard and Witch Editions, Archie Edition, Comics Edition, and Music Edition.
I'm gonna have to go Presidents for 500.
All right, Presidential Edition it will be. The Fuck, Marry, Kill choices, and we're not on YouTube, so please feel free to tear into this as much as you would like. The 3 purported cocksmen amongst presidents, as listed. Mr. Donald Trump, William Jefferson Clinton, and John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Oh.
Wow, this is easy.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm gonna kill Trump, not for any reason to him, but because given the proclivities of the other two, in that they actually do more than just grab someone by the pussy, if you know what I mean. I would assume that they would be in for a better time, either or. Now for the marry and the fuck, I would go with Clinton for Mary, just because I feel like, I don't know, I have a good political career ahead of me. I can and maybe he can pass me, a couple of the female aides when he's done with them. Or before.
If we're going whole hog onto this, my friend.
You said we're not on YouTube, so I got to get it all out.
We're not going in a sidebar here. You are not in a heterosexual partnership where you're tag teaming people with these folks. You are
You can be bisexual.
Yeah, that's possible, but at the same time,
So we're talking about fuck. Like,
you are
have
going
to consummate the marriage, and you
married.
are into it.
Oh yeah. No, I'm saying I'm talking about the perks in addition to marriage with him.
But I was going to say, you're going to be dealing with the fact that he's stepping out on you constantly. So if you want any semblance of not having the swinging relationship,
Not a really good,
considering
not a good COVID partner to have.
No.
Don't know how many people he's been around.
Well, considering that, as far as I'm aware, Kennedy has had a lot more.
Also, this gentleman claims that oral sex is not sex, so you're getting taxed in ways that you're not prepared for, Michael.
If it doesn't fall off, then it's good, right? Right, John?
That's what John says.
That's
yes.
how it works. Yeah.
Exactly. And then obviously I would fuck Kennedy. Just because I also feel like he might be a more passionate lover. I don't know.
Certainly had practice.
Yes, exactly. If you can bag, like Marilyn Monroe, allegedly.
I was going to say, if you're going to go with the rogues gallery of individuals that each of these folks have claimed to have had physical congress with, Clinton's is a sketchy bunch of folks to meet, at the Golden Corral at 2:30 in the morning after a big bad drunk. Those are the sort of women you're looking at, and that's bad territory for disparaging right now. But yeah, comparatively, I'll take what Kennedy was bringing in.
Okay, well, I think unless Shane is gonna have something very remarkable, I think I'm also on the kill Trump, but I'm opposite you, Michael. I think I would only fuck Clinton because I think that he's probably had he's the come and go. He knows what he's doing, or he knows what he likes enough that we can get this going quick. Probably back alley, maybe back of a car.
Okay.
Whereas to your point, I think Kennedy would be very passionate, and I would rather be married to a passionate man.
You make a good point, actually. Yes, you do.
And also, if I am bi in the situation, and maybe poly and bi, then and I'm back in time, and this is assuming that I'm not just trying to have sex with a corpse.
No,
Marilyn
corpse.
Monroe is with me.
Eh?
We're a thruple.
Hopefully, unless he's lying to you about it, as he did with presumably his wife.
That's fine.
But we're going to try to keep a woke perspective. I'm going to have a dramatically different approach to this than either of you gentlemen.
Okay.
And this is totally the sperm of the moment. Pardon my pun. I think, firstly, I'm going to do this in reverse order. So from the marriage end, I'm going to share that with John, and I'm going to go with Kennedy because I'm not going to need to be married for very long. So I can afford to explore any number of other options once I've tried it on for a bit. And, I like Massachusetts. It's a nice place to be.
Bruh.
It's gonna put a bulletproof shield around your heart.
Woo!
And, he's Catholic, so I wouldn't have to pull out.
Boy, howdy.
For our dear friend, Mr. Clinton, I believe that is going to be my glorious, kill.
Oh.
Because he's perpetrated a lot of joyful things on this country, not the least of which all of the ramifications of what we've had to deal with his wife running around and caterwauling for the past 20 years.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of Somali folks that would probably agree with me that Clinton could use to get a little headhunting here. But let me tell you why I'm going to fuck Trump. One, it's a catchy catchphrase, and I think I want to have it sort of broadbanded as much as humanly possible.
Surely it's taking it literally.
Yes.
And as of right now, I'm going to pin that bastard down and do to him what so many people have claimed he's done to them, which is fuck him to death. I will penetrate that man to the point that he's bleeding rectally, to the point that he will also die. So I can fuck Trump and live with the fact that I, like South Park characters, have managed to drive that man into the loam face first.
I like
think
that.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
And for everyone else that's now watching, hi, welcome. Funny Jokes podcast thing.
We're having a good time here.
Hashtag literally fuck Trump.
Yes, don't at me here. This is just, we're having a good time. We're trying to laugh.
Yeah, thanks also for reminding me about the most depressing season of South Park of all fucking time, where they're like, there's no way that he's going to get elected, so we're just going to turn Garrison into an orange buffoon for the majority of the season, and then having to literally end the whole season with, oh, fuck.
Yep. This is reality, folks. We didn't want to come back to it, but unfortunately it keeps slapping us in the face like our president, the Cheeto-faced twat waffle, as otherwise known in social circles that I'm a part of. So,
we can escape away from reality for one more go.
Indeed.
Into some terrible, terrible fan fiction.
I think that is a reasonable place to start. John, are you going to continue with the introduction here?
Yeah. How many on this podcast, how many of us are voice actors? One. Literally one person. And it's Shane. It's always been Shane. It's only ever going to be Shane. I describe Shane as the anchor because he has the most lines, and he's the only one that is responsible enough to do it well.
I am a golden god!
Watch, one day, John, I will get
actually
voice actor training
professionally-
somehow. And then I
Professionally
will show you up.
employed to use his voice for good, evil, and everything else in between.
Yeah, that one
Anyway,
time.
so Michael, for some reason, in his earlier 20s,
Sick depravity.
somehow got really attached to the world's worst fan fiction, which, if I remember correctly, we covered in episode 25.
Correctamundo.
Mm-hmm.
So, as Shane said last week, if you want a quick synopsis on what you're getting yourself into, go there.
Or if you want the overarching tale so that you can see this thing to its fruition and know what you're getting into ahead of time so you get a better context. I think it might help. If you don't know what the hell's going on, that episode will balance and ground you into the story and the world we're inhabiting.
A little bit. And also, I haven't re-listened to that episode, but I'm sure it's completely different than what we do now. But that being said, for some reason, Michael is a sadist and wanted to create a audiobook version of that fan fiction, which is called My Immortal. And again, I'm not going to commit the author's name to memory because I don't even think they exist.
Well, the author exists. Whether or not that's their real name is definitely a matter of debate. So that's a fair point.
It could be their nom de plume.
Bless you.
As we mentioned almost at the top of this episode, it's kind of like a B-side to our episodes as we chunk along chapters in the ever-growing pursuit of completing the audiobook and releasing it as one collective whole, which, God have mercy on you if you decide to dumb down. Actually, no. I lost my train of thought.
God
Anyway,
have
this is My
mercy on me
Immortal.
when I try and edit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm dreading it, but
to bring Jurassic Park back in, we spent all this time asking if we could, and we never stopped to think if we should.
What I'm saying right now is, when My Immortal breaks down, it's not that Ebony will eat the tourists. Well, and also, I think at the time, the reason we got into doing this was that we were all very pleased with the way the episode came out. It was kind of a turning point for us as a podcast. It kind of changed how we approached our delivery through this, because otherwise it was, an hour and a half of me drooling on about people being tortured in Stanford, which is not as easily sort of digestible.
And then an hour and a half of
your rock bottom on this show, isn't it?
It feels like it
all the time.
Well, the reason being is by the time we got through that recording session, it was our third of the day, and then it was like in the last one, the both of you were just dead sitting next to me in the room, and I'm watching your faces just not register anything. So yeah, it was kind of, what happened in last week's My Immortal, as a matter of fact, is kind of what it felt like, as I just shocked you into submission.
Well, what did happen in last week's?
Hold on. Let's be thankful. Shane brought this up. Let's be thankful real quick. We've ironed it out. We don't record 3 episodes at a time anymore.
Yeah.
Thank fuck.
Yes.
But anyway, I'm ready for a synopsis so that I can, pretend that I remember what happened.
Oh, yes. Well, we'll try to get you back immersed as we go into our previously on My Immortal. In Chapter 28, brought to us by the word alabastard, Ebony confesses her dark task of seducing Voloxmort to Draco and Vampire. Draco is concerned Ebony may bake up with him. That's bake up with him, kid. Stoner lingo is very strange. They French sexily, and Vampire, the queasy little cuck that he is, videotapes them in their latest episode of Nightwalker, Texas Wangslinger. This is perfectly fine and acceptable, of course, because Ebony and Draco gave him permission to film their dirty dancing, or at least we're assured in the course of the context here. However, the act is coitus interrupted, by an Agog Magongal and Snopes. Debunked. Chapter 29 sees the children left alone with Snape, who proceeds to provocatively Buffalo Bill dance at them whilst cracking a whip like a lion tamer. Having first elected to garb the caramel, that is literally translated there, which as far as I'm aware translates to grab the camera for those who are not afflicted with dyslexia. A web of bizarre blackmail is woven wherein each has compromising photos or videos of the other, and Snape then produces the said whips to end the chapter, which then leads into Chapter 30, where it is revealed that Snape has a dork mark on his dongle, which is a breed of disturbing that we haven't heretofore been forced to confront. Thank you, Michael. Snap subsequently proceeds to play naked torture time with our characters in events that I don't feel like attempting to further describe. Beyond his assistance that Ebony stab Vampire with a knife, he magically manifests, and lest Snape rap Draco, or I should say snap rap Draco. Perhaps he's someone's secret Santa, who knows? Or maybe he meant battle rap. He just wanted to, stage it off with him. Who knows? In any event, Snape's sinister plot, get it, is foiled when Ibooby sends telepathic messages through her vampire powers to have the boys distract Snipe. She shited her wound, or shot her wand, or shot her wad. Who the fuck knows at this point? Cries Crocio and texts Sirius, who arrives in the nick of time, or the knickers of time, along with Professor Sinister. Snape then attempts to lie and claim he was merely teaching the children something. It's another one of those, spare the rod, spoil the child kind of scenarios, apparently. But Sirius then chains him up as Dr. Mrs. Sinister exits with Ebony. Leading us to Chapter 31, because we were gluttons last week and got through 4 of these bloody things, where they haven't gone anywhere. So she says, come on, Ebony, let's go. And then they're all still sitting around. Fuck's sake.
It's kind of like that sequence on Legion Season 1 where there's like 4 episodes just to get you back to the cliffhanger.
Yes. So anyway, a tit-for-tat back and forth between Snape and Sirius occurs, wherein we learn that Buffy rocks and Snap is a son of a Bitka. Ebony produces Voldemort serum, which Sirius administers to Snape. They tape record Snape's confession because this is the early aughts, and phones are apparently not that sophisticated yet in a realm where fucking magic is possible! Draco and Vampire are taken to the nurse by Lucius, and Sinister takes Ebony to a room cloyed in darkness and banned posters like every other fucking room in Hogwarts, apparently. It is seduction time in Magic Land. Bloody Mary, who's called Hermione in a blatant loss of continuity because it's the first time we've lurked back into her being her original character name. Darkness and Willow are there to assist with preparations, aka dressing her like a goth sorority sex worker on her way to a fraternity party and Halloween. Sinister preps her to go back in Tim, which will apparently take multiple trips. A Blake gun is provided, lest the dirty fail to remove his vile spermies, and a Black Time tuner, because I believe it's going to head back to a B-flat.
Music humor.
They throw a pensive in front of her, da death's tush sin is given, and in seconds flat, Ebony's bobbing for assholes. She awakens in front of the school, confronted by the quote-unquote hottest goth guy she has ever seen, and isn't that a revelation worth sticking around for friends and neighbors? And this one looks like Mikey Way. Here's to a change of pace, at least, fuck's sake. With Billy Joe Armstrong's glorious green eyes, and it's right, it's Tom Bombadil. One. So that gets us to where we are right now. The glorious Tom Bombadil made me cry.
And because I forgot. And if you've made it this far, then you probably listened to the other entries, unlike Jesse. And Jesse, if you're listening now, welcome back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, love and kisses.
Everything that Michael has taken from the fanfic is verbatim. So he essentially has just assigned roles and characters to us, but everything is exactly how it is in the fanfiction, which is riddled with grammatical errors and just life errors. It is
and misspellings and nonsense.
Atrocious. It is fucking atrocious. It is an assault to the brain, which is why I think it's great that we've subjected Shane to this for so long. The man who doesn't like slapstick comedies because of how lowbrow that they are, and now he is forced in this 7th level of hell narrating a book.
Reading this is the closest thing that I'm going to have to suffering a literal stroke in my life thus far, hopefully.
So
they said create a legacy, and you did not think they meant this.
So there's two things that I want to cover. First off, I made a note for you, John, for your new character that you'll be voicing.
Yep.
Young Voldemort.
Did we say,
will be given a different name.
Pinch Nose, right? For that?
Yes. I'm trying to remember exactly how he sounds.
Kind of like this. Yeah, so I think if I just put this, I think this is Satan's voice.
There you go.
All right.
And then the other thing I want to, I will leave it up to you guys because I did find an answer in the later chapters. What year does she travel to?
What year is it?
Yes, what year? I want you to be able to figure that out. No, they did not go to the moon. Hogwarts is in England.
Michael, can I do a bit of, like revisiting here? You say what year is it very frequently. Are you quoting Terminator when you say that, or is there another thing you're quoting here?
I actually can't remember the reference.
Back to the Future.
I think, yes, no, it is Back to the Future. What year is it? Yes.
What year is it?
Yes.
All right, because they also, in the original Terminator, when Michael Biehn comes back, he, falls down next to the indigent individual who goes like, "Oh, hey, buddy, you just see a real bright light." And so Michael Biehn grabs him and shakes him. And he says, "What's the date? What day is it?" And he says, "It's May 3rd. He's like, "No, what's the year?" So you always say it with a similar sort of delivery there. So I wasn't sure whether you were quoting, Terminator.
That's fair.
Or not, but
it also just gave me my general, brain deterioration.
Or your
where I just
genital
combine the two.
Anyway, you were
deterioration.
saying
It hasn't
are you
fallen
trying
off,
to
it's
cut
not
to the
fine.
chase here, or
Yeah, those are the only 2 points. So, like, I'll ask you at the end of our whole reading, not the end of each chapter, but the end of this section, and see, what you think the
Cool.
year is.
Well, Shane.
Let's do this, except I don't have to say anything because it doesn't start with me.
Well, you
well,
still have to.
I know, I got it. So.
Do the thing, because I listened to this week's episode so that I could hear the music cue.
Oh,
Yeah.
well done. Welcome back.
I'm proud of it.
So, welcome to My Immortal, as presented by the Disinformed Podcast Cast. Chapter 32.
Hi. Okay, no, okay. Take 32. I'll cut out all the other takes before that. Hi.
I said flirtily.
I'm Anobi Way, the new student.
I shock my pale hands with their black noil polish with him,
The name's Tom,
he said.
but you can call me Satan. That's my middle name.
We shock hands,
Well, come on, we have to go upstairs.
Satan said. I followed him.
Hey, Satan, do you happen to be a fan of Grande?
Sins, MCR, and... I should clarify, this is a parenthetical, so... Sins, MCR, and Evanescence don't exist yet, then, I asked.
Oh my fucking god, how did you know?
Satan gasped.
Actually, I like GC a lot too.
Get it? 'Cause GC did that song, I Just Wanna Live, that's outed. Really 80s?
OMG, me too.
I replied happily.
Guess what? They have a concert in Hogsmeade.
Satan whispered.
Hogsmeade?
I asked.
Yeah, that's what they used to call it in these times before it became Hogsmeade in 2000.
He told me all secretively.
And there's a really cool shop called Hot.
Topic!
I finished, happy again. He frowned confusedly.
No, it's called Hot Issue.
He smiled skirtively again.
And then in 1998, they changed it to Hot Topic.
He moaned.
Oh,
Now everything was making sense for me. Oh, good, you're the one.
so is Dumbledore your prince pill?
I shouted.
Uh-huh.
He looked.
Uh-huh.
He looked. Fuck me. All right, I'm gonna go for my shouted again. I shouted.
Uh-huh.
He looked at his black nails.
I'm in Slytherin.
OMFG, me too!
I shredded kid.
You go to this skull?
Get it? 'Cause I'm Gothic? He asked.
Yeah, that's why I'm here, I'm new!
I smelled hap-illy. Suddenly, Dumbledore flew in on his broomstick and started shredding at us angrily.
No talking in the halls.
He had short blonde hair, and he was wearing a polo shirt from American Ogle Outfitters.
Stupid goths.
Satan rolled his eyes.
You're so mean to us goths and punks just because we're a Slytherin and we're not preps.
I turned around angrily.
Actually, I think maybe it's because you're the Barkate Lord.
WTF?
He asked angrily.
Oh, nothing.
I said sweetly. Then, suddenly, the floor opened.
OMFG, no, I scrammed as I fell down. Everyone looked at me weirdly.
Could you please say feel down, because I love that that's...
Sorry, you're right. OMFG, no, I scrammed as I feel down.
Schemed.
Oh,
It's
dang
tough,
it.
man. Trust me, I know.
Okay. OMFG, no, I schemed as I feel down. Everyone looked at me weirdly.
Hey, where are you going?
Satan asked as I fell. I got out of the hole. It was bake in the pensive in Professor Trevelry's classroom. Dumbledum was der.
Dumbledore, I think I just met you.
I said.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Dumbledore said, trying to be all gothic. Sinister came in.
Hey, this is my classroom. Wait, WTF, Ebony, what the hell are you doing?
I looked at her.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
With how?
I screamed, forgetting she was a teacher for a second. But she's a goth, so it's okay. Professor Sinister looked sad.
And I was drinking Voldemort serum.
She started to cry black tears of depression. Dumbledum didn't know about them.
Hey, are you crying tears of blood?
He asked, curiously, tushing a tear.
Fuck
Fuck
off.
off.
We both said, and Dumbledum took his hand away. Professor Sinister started crying again in her chair, sobbing limpid tears.
Oh, MFG, Ebony. I think I'm addicted to Voldemort serum. Scriptwriter's note. I feel like I need to include the author's note in here to end the chapter. You can read it if you want, Shane. Fuck you, Shane. I did it, John.
What?
Actually, it's the author's note is what follows here. The author's note is, see you fucking perhaps go for Ursula XXX, that's Sarah's issues 20, go to hell 111112.
So now, how would you say that if you were a person that was driving yourself to work and not being dropped off?
Yeah, if you didn't, get... if you didn't get hit by a happy slapper at some time in the course of your life, it is see you fucking preps, go fuck yourselves. That's serious issues. I don't know why she says serious issues. Go to hell.
Yes. Because she's adding a serious topic that... Huh?
Of addiction?
Yes. Addiction is a serious topic, John.
What's
I'm surprised you would
Voldemort
even
serum?
Voldemort, I think that's the truth serum.
Veritas serum, as otherwise
Yes.
known.
With,
Yes.
like wizard heroin?
I don't see why truth serum would be something that one would enjoy taking.
I have no idea. I mean, she used it correctly in the previous
I just really
chapter,
like telling the truth.
but then this happened. But I mean, hey, that's serious issues for you. We can't choose how and when they appear. They're just serious issues.
I also love that she's actively engaging with all of, those who are her detractors online. And so the vocal detractors, she's now arguing with by including stupid shit in the storytelling.
Oh, she's done that. She does that every chapter.
Right.
That's why I don't include it, because it's pretty much like, fuck you, preps. Give me reviews. If not, I'll cut my wrists. Thanks, Raven, for the edits, girl.
Wow.
She says that pretty much every other time.
Okay.
The other time that she pointed at something was when initially people were upset that Voldemort said motherfuckers in like chapter 2 or 3. And she said, he had a headache, okay? So that's why he cussed.
Isn't it Dumbledore had a headache?
Yes, Dumbledore had a headache.
Oh,
That's
I
what
thought
she
you
was
said
saying.
Voldemort.
Oh, no.
Trust me, I can understand you not, keeping a coherent thought in your head at this point after we've just got... This feels like that scene in Goodfellas where they've got a guy's head trapped in a vice, and they're just, or is it Casino where they're doing that? Yeah, it's Casino.
I don't recall.
Yeah, so in any event, I feel like this is our brain trapped in a vice where we're just trying to make sense of this nonsense.
Hey,
Okay.
do you guys remember what voice I did for Lupin?
I can't remember. I think you must have done something just plain.
All right, I'm
Because
just
that
gonna do
was-
mine then.
Yeah, that was when Snape and Lupin were introduced, and we pretty much I think we did the
Masticating?
same thing. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, well, I'm good then.
Oh wait, no. Did you have someone try and be like Herbert from Family Guy, the old pedophile?
If we're gonna do that, please give it to me.
Okay,
All right, Shane,
fair
it's you.
enough.
You're
All right.
Lupin
You
from
can-
now on doing Herbert's voice.
Done. All right. All right. Here
Lupin
we
doesn't
are.
really appear much, so that's perfectly fine.
Handy. I thought you were going to say sloopin'.
Lupin.
Sloopin'.
That's what he
Okay.
wishes.
Chapter 33.
Oh my fucking god! 1.
I shooted sadly.
Should we get you to St. Manga's, bitch?
Hell no.
She said.
Listen, Agagi, I need your help. Next time you go back in Tim, do you think you could ask Tom Andersons to some help?
Sure, I said sadly. I went outside the door. Draco was there. 111. He was wearing a big black GCT shit. Damn it. I practiced that line. Oh, okay.
I also will clarify here that
trying.
it's including what would normally be narration in her dialogue, which is fabulous.
Yep, it was contained in the quotation
Yes.
marks, so I read that. Yep. Sure, I said sadly. I went outside the door. Draco was there. 111. He was. God damn it.
Take it from the one.
He was wearing a big black GCT shit, which was his pananimus. Hey, sexy.
I said.
How you going, Abby?
He asked. In his voice was so sexy and low, kind of like Gerard Way when he's talking.
Fine.
I responded. We stared to go back into the dorm.
How far did you go with Satan?
Draco asked jealously.
Not too far, lol.
I borked.
Will you have to do it with him?
Draco asked angstily.
I hop not too far. 111.
I shouted angrily. Then I felt bad, too, shooting at him. I said sorry. We Frenched.
What happened to Snipe?
I growled.
You will see.
Draco giggled mistressly. He opened a door. Snap, nud, lumpkin, wers there. 1-1. Sirius was pokering dem by stagging dem with a Blake niff. No! Pulls! 1-1-1-1. Lumpkin bagged as Sirius started. Good God.
Okay, this is about to get really, really rough.
Yes. Lumpkin bagged as Sirius started to soak his blood. I laughed statistically. I talk some photons of him and snap bing torqued. Okay, this is a parenthetical. Okay, I know dis is men, but think about it, Pepple. They are pedos. And snap trid to rap dem, and anyway, sadist rock has anyone seen Shark Attack 3 lols. Okay, well that's a therapy session just in and of itself. All right, so she is claiming that these gentlemen are pedophiles. Yes.
So they deserve what's happening to them.
Yes, Snape did try
And
to
have you
molest
seen
some
Shark Attack
children.
3?
And yeah, have you seen Star? Okay. Back in. We took some of Snipes' blood. Then Draco and I went back to our rooms. We sat on my Gothic Blake coffin. My clothes were kinda dirty, so I put on a Blake lever outfit. Fingy, kinda like da one Sualine Hayes in Undre word. Parenthetical. If you haven't heard, as in cattle, heard of it done. Fook ooh 111.
Celine and Underworld?
Yes. I put on some Blake platform high heels. Draco put on Desolition Livers by MCR. Then we started to take of each other's clothes. I talk of his shit, and he had a six-pack. Lols. We started to mac out like in Da Grudge. He pot his wetness in my you-know-what sexily. I got an orgy.
Oh, Draco! Oh.
Sorry, that's the longest paragraph I think you've ever had to read that was that bad. Can you just say what it might say normally?
Are you out of your fucking mind?
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right. That's
there's a
big
degree to which my translation here. Oh God. Okay.
All right. So no, quick.
I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah.
So they took some of Snape's blood because they're all vampires and they're drinking from him. And then her clothes were dirty, so she put on a black leather outfit, fingy, kind of like what Celine is wearing in Underworld. So a very form-fitting leather bodysuit for no reason, because one, that's going to be easy to take off. So she put on some black platform high heels as well. Draco throws on some MCR to set the mood, and then they start to take off each other's clothes. So she puts on a leather outfit to get back out of it immediately. Then she took off his shirt. He has a lovely six-pack. They started to make out like in The Grudge. I have no idea.
I don't recall when there was
at one point where, and then he put his
wetness
in her you-know-what, and she got an orgasm as opposed to she got an orgy. Holy hell. You're welcome. And back in.
Oh, Draco! 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Oh my fucking good Draco! 1, 1, 1, 1.
I screamed passively as he got an eructation.
I love you, Every.
He whispered sexily, and then we fell asleep. Lol.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we took a break from all the heavy content to have a sex scene.
Here's the thing.
Oh no.
Shane quits the podcast.
For anyone here who is a big fan of Hellraiser, and in particular Hellraiser 2, where we get to see how Pinhead was created, this is how I feel like, or this is what I feel like every time we do this thing, is that someone is just, randomly pounding nails into my head with some sort of gyrating penis. And that's basically what reading this story feels like.
Well, with that being said, are you ready for the final chapter of this week?
Yes.
That starts off with another big paragraph?
Yep, I Wookie. Yes, I'm so ready for this. All right, chapter 34. I woke up in the coffin the next day. Draco was gone. I got up and put on a black tight Saxa dress that was all ripped at the end. There was red corset stuff going up the front and the back, and it came up to my knees. There was a slit in the dress, lick in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Shit. There was a slit in the dress, lick in Mr. and Mr. Smith. I pot on ripped Blake fishnets and black Stilton boots. Suddenly, Sorius cocked on the door. I opened it. Oh shit. Hello, that's me. Forgive me, I'm not used to having characters, so my brain doesn't translate.
All right. Great.
I opened it. Aye, Ebony, he said. Guess what you have to come to Professor Sinister's office.
Okay,
I said in a depressed voice. I had wanted to fook Draco or maybe lesson to MCR or Yvonne's scans. I came anyway.
so what the fuck happened to Snipe and Lupin?
I asked Sorius flirtily. I fucking tortured him, he answered in a statistic way. They're in Azkaban now. Lol. I laughed evilly.
Where are Draco and Vapira?
I muttered. They are excused from school today. Sodomize moaned sexily. Right now, they're watching The Nightmare Before Xmas. We went into the office. Professor Sinister was there. She was wearing a gothic black dress that was all ripped all over. It kind of like the one Amy Lee wears in Dispic, with a fucking hyperlink following, which we are not going to include.
Nope, the hyperlink was actually not there. It was just http:// and that was it.
Hey, if you do a quick search for Amy Lee on the webs, I'm sure that you can find some sort of her wearing, ripped clothing. I bet it's happened.
I would Google search Amy Lee with the gothic black dress that was all ripped all over it, kind of like.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. She was drinking some Voximort serum. She took out the pensive and the time torner.
Inabi, you have to do another session now. Also, I need you to get me the cure for being addicted.
She said sadly.
Good luck. Thanks.
And then I jumped into the Prinsive again. Suddenly, I looked around. I was in the Great Hall, eating Count Chorkula. It was morning. I was sitting next to Satan. On a table was a tall, Gothic man with long black hair, pale skin, and blue eyes, wearing a suit and black Converse shoes. He looked just like Charlton Manson. I noticed he was drinking a portent.
Who's he? 1-1.
I asked.
Oh, that's Professor Slutborn.
Satan said.
He's the portents teacher. Ebony,
Yeah?
I asked.
do you know that Marilyn Manson is playing at Hans?
Firstly, we'll reel back John's poor sinuses, but also it's Marilyn Mason. So we'll get to Marilyn Mason here. Oh God.
Did you know that Marilyn Manson is playing in Hogsmeade tonight? And they are showing the exercise at the movies before that.
Yeah?
Well, want to go to the concert at the movie with me?
Are we stopping there, or are we doing
Yes,
chapter
yes,
35?
we're done.
Okay.
Fucking yes, I'm stopping.
Hey,
way,
there's
that's
another
probably my-
concert of Hogsmeade, everyone!
Yeah, that's my favorite thing of all time is that's his serious thing. He's like reeling back like there's something super important to the plot.
Now,
But no, it's the 1000th concert that happens in Hogsmeade.
so yes, I think if we're talking about, trying to identify when the time is that Satan is attending, Hogwarts, which should be, if we're going canonically, in the 1950s maybe?
Yeah, the 1950s, I believe.
50s or 60s, but all of a sudden it's 2 to 3 years beforehand where he's suddenly like dramatically aged. Or I mean, think about, when was Marilyn Manson really in like full popularity? Maybe 98.
I was gonna say mid 90s or early aughts.
So if we're talking
full
like
popularity would be.
so I mean, so what she's time traveled, and then so Green Day is also a thing, which that's going to put us around like 96 to 98 range maybe. So yeah, she's traveled back in time like a decade.
Yeah, Michael, do you know the answer?
Yes, because I actually wrote this down earlier. According to another time travel thing that we run into later, she goes to 1980.
Now, I mean, if we want to argue for the, mid 90s to early aughts, if we're Trying.
It has to be before 98 because Hot Issue becomes Hot Topic in 98, according to
All right.
Satan, who, even though if he shouldn't know
Now,
that,
I mean, even
he
this,
is.
if we're talking now, if this is 98 and Hot Issue is transitioning, let's say this is as it's happening, it would work if we're talking Tom Rids is also Satan, which, I mean, this is Ebony apologizing beyond belief here, or I should say Raven apologizing. That would make sense, because you've got Tom Riddle who may be, or, in his 20s, working at whatever non-Hot Topic clothing store he's working at. But, of course, there's also Voldemort, who's, a grown adult with no nose at the same time. So unless he's Clark Kent to Superman, Tom Rids to Vloxmort, there's no way that this is happening. So, I mean, there's no sense to be found. I don't know why I'm trying to find it, but I mean, I'm trying to glue pieces together.
Yeah, at this point, you just need to, just eat the hate-filled burrito.
Just let it go.
To crib from you, yeah.
Yes,
I love it, though. I love it so much.
Why?
I don't know why. It's just like this sick fascination. It's a character study into... I don't know. It's just like...
It is like a sick peek behind the curtain into internet culture,
yes.
Particularly fan fiction culture and, those who were enjoying populating Tumblr at the time. But, man, this just makes me want to... If I had my finger on the button to exterminate humanity, this would make me push it twice.
Yeah, I don't think the world ever asked for what's probably going to be a 10 or 12-hour audiobook of it. And... yeah, I still think to this, even more so now as it gets more and more ludicrous, I think it's the yes-anding on the author's part, and I do think still that it is parody and it's satirical.
It better be.
I don't think that it's just too purposefully fucked.
Agreed.
There's too many things in it that happens. Like, there's too many spelling mistakes or too many, like, misremembering of characters that there's no way. If the person was that unintelligent, I don't think they'd be able to remember their own password to get back onto their computer, or remember where a power button is, or know how to turn on the lights enough to get to write.
There are too many words that are, if you consider the connotation, is what makes it funny. There is someone who has a grasp of the English language that you wouldn't expect from someone who's a simpleton. So yes, that does...
Shane admitted, statistically.
It does... It curries your favor for saying this is something that was written satirically. I just wish that they're... Granted, we are poking fun at fan fiction, so that's why this is reprehensible and it's just ghastly nonsense. But, the literature major in my head right now is just screaming for some semblance of coherency, and I am just not getting it.
Yeah, you're unlearning how to be a better English.
At least I'm reading things as palate cleansers. I've just completed the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, and so I've been reading good things to keep me. Well, that's subjective, but something better than this, certainly.
What better, well written, like much better written,
without even trying.
Material.
I think
much more gooder.
I think Stephen King in A Fever Dream, or morphine-addled Coke Stephen King, has proven he is better than this nonsense.
Oh, substantially.
Yes, without question. Well, thank you for subjecting us to this, Michael. As always, we really appreciate having another reason to commit suicide later.
Oh,
as
just wait.
Endorsed by this thing.
Just wait until the full audiobook is out. It's gonna be great.
Oh, I'm sure. And then we get to move on to even more fertile grounds, like the Christian Hogwarts.
Oh, yes. I'm
hey, guys,
so excited.
I thought the Bible doesn't have an audiobook, so maybe we could take our shot at that next.
I would only read it if it was fan
begat.
fiction. I would read fan fiction of the Bible.
It's the greatest story never told, as far as I'm concerned, right now.
Oh, speaking of, Michael, and I've always been curious to do this, maybe it could be like a group, a palate cleanser, that we could just read the first issue.
Okay.
But there is a comic that is called The Bible 2. And I think I saw one of the cover arts for it was Jesus on top of a velociraptor, like riding a velociraptor with an AK in his hand.
Oh, I have seen that picture.
So maybe as a palate cleanser down the line, we can just read the first issue Maybe just buy one copy. We'll just send it to each other or something, or an ebook, and just like pass it around or something.
Well, I think
As we
that's a
try to
reasonable
get Shane
thing
to
to
kill
approach.
himself.
Yeah. We're getting there. We're inching closer and closer.
I'm so happy.
Well, I believe that little, compressive sandwich of disgust and disdain is going to finally just seal itself closed into a panini of absolute painful disgust for this week's glory-filled edition of the Disinformed podcast. Gentlemen, is there anything we want to impart before we move on?
No, birds aren't real.
Mm-hmm.
No, we covered that.
Yes.
Oh, because I don't think that I could. Well, I could ask this on the After Dark, but I'd rather just ask it now to take us out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are eating your own shit a lot and you burp, is it technically farting?
Well, I guess we're going with, we appreciate you listening to this podcast, and we really glad that you are not a fecophiliac like Mr. John here.
And I'm Michael.
Jeez Louise.
Oh, it peaked real bad with that. Oh boy.
I hate all of you, and I cannot wait until you're all turning over in worm food.
Well, I had So I actually have. So you like learning about like almost depraved people, right, Shane? You like true crime podcasts and all that other stuff?
I mean, I in my 20s, I was a lot more engaged by it. I mean, now I'm just disgusted with everything, so it's a little different. But yeah, if you talk to me like 24, I probably would be all over this. But yeah, I'm still interested.
So there's a podcast that I started listening to. It's called Behind the Bastards, and it's you have really interesting. I mainly found it because I listened to one of their partner podcasts, Worst Year Ever, which I brought up before. But they cover like dictators or just really bad people. Though I haven't listened to the main episodes, they did a mini series on Behind the Police, talking about a lot of the problematic history that led to the creation of the police force that we know today. And it was actually a really interesting thing. I almost thought about doing an episode, but it'd either be too long, too depressing, or a combination of the two.
All of the above, yeah.
Yes, too depraved. Since you do like learning about people, I will try and start listening to the behind the actual like podcast itself. And if it sounds interesting enough, I might let you know about it.
Well, Michael, allow me to retort.
Ooh.
Because I finished the Waco miniseries on Netflix fairly recently. And I found it very entertaining. And if you aren't already disgusted by, corruption and mishandling of situations and mangling of facts, then that will certainly push you over the end of the edge there if you happen to watch it. I would recommend it. It's an interesting series.
Yeah. I've always wanted to learn more about that. Yeah. Cool.
It's you're not going to get something that I would consider to be, factually accurate, because it's taken from two books that are first-person accounts of the incident from either side, and it's subjective, we'll call it. But all right, I think that's our recommendations for the week. Well, that's our akin to Sam's drink recommendation of the evening for those playing the home game. All right, ladies and germaphobes, thank you for being here with us. As always, we sincerely appreciate your listenership, and for all of you new listeners out there, thank you for enduring this madness. We hope that you survived, because we may not. But we love you all, and we are going to give you our most sincere appreciations, and we're going to try to keep this as entertaining to you going forward, as it certainly is to us. But I believe, for the narcoleptic edition of the Disinformed podcast, I am Shane.
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
Thank you for coming, kids. Don't worry, it's probably going to pool for quite some time before it's found by the police after a month and a half, and someone having to knock on the door for a quick checkup.
We're all gonna fucking die.
It's a death.